You're listening to the Valley Labor Report with Adam Keller and Jacob Morrison.
What would you say is kind of in your dealing with, union campaigns and anti-union campaigns from the boss, what is one of the first things that they tend to say against unions?
Well, one of, I think, the absolute first things that they usually say, especially if, they've been asked to just recognize the union, which is the fairest way to do it, is that they try to kind of make it seem like, well, that would silence some people, that really we feel that like an election is the fairest way to kind of play this process out, that we need to respect the NLRB or, the Public Labor Board process. And I think that that's kind of a key moment that is really important to inoculate against, because it sounds right. It sounds like, oh, yeah, okay, an election, like we love elections. And I think that kind of making sure that folks are prepared to understand that, no, you voted when you signed a union card. What they're just trying to do is stall for time. They have the power to recognize the thing that you want right now, and they're just choosing not to. I think that's kind of a key first kind of inoculation moment, is to get rid of kind of the sense of inevitability of an NLRB election and make it clear that, no, like the expectation is that management should recognize you up front. Mm-hmm. And if there's an election, that's purely because they're trying to stop you from expressing your democratic desire for a union.
Right. Explain to us what a union authorization card used properly is you saying, and this is what they say, but it's important for union organizers to tell you that this is what it says, that you want a union, that you are a union. You have decided that this is what you want. It's not just something that you sign so you can get an election. It's something that ideally you present to the boss and say, we have come together and we are a union, and we want you to recognize us. Now, if they don't recognize you, then you do need a certain number of those cards signed to trigger an election, like you mentioned, is that's going to be, just to stall for time so that they can really ramp up the anti-union campaign. But this is something that I've seen Jane McAlevey talk about in her books, that union organizers even can get wrong when they or that they do incorrectly by telling people that the union authorization card is just to get an election. Like, that's not what it's supposed to be for, right?
Yeah, and I think that that's unfortunately something that is part of the reason that it kind of slides into that, is because a lot of folks, it's uncomfortable to make kind of direct asks of your coworkers, even if you know that it's good for you and it's good for them and it's part of a discussion about building power. It's sometimes hard to make a direct ask like, hey, you're going to support and join the union. And so there's a tendency to just kind of like, okay, I'm going to go for the easier one and say, well, right, you don't actually have to vote for the union. Like, this is just to get an election. That's absolutely not best practice, like you said, and Jane has really, I think, emphasized that. And I think the best kind of authorization cards explicitly say, no, this isn't just that you want a union. It's not just authorizing that, hey, I want a union. It's also a membership form. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think the best authorization cards combine both the membership enrollment and the authorization for, yes, I want a union to represent me. Right. And so I think that, of course, is harder because it takes a commitment, but also, like Jane would say, there are no shortcuts to kind of building these kinds of unions, and you can't just kind of take the easier ask and then hope to kind of get people to the right place later.
Right. And, and so let's go ahead and, Adam, get ready, because there's a video that was, I spent hours. So you're welcome, everybody in the audience. I spent hours watching all the anti-union training videos that I could find on YouTube, and Lowe's had there was like an hour and a half just from Lowe's that I watched, and so they had a lot of good, like, super boilerplate, this is what you're going to hear, and so a lot of it is going to come from a Lowe's training video that I watched. I also found some from Walmart and Target and Amazon, but Lowe's had the longest. Like, it's like, I think somebody actually got some of the like a VHS for the whole training program, but and that's not normal. Like when you see these are leaked, right? I mean, they don't want these training videos out in the public. But at Lowe's, they in the training video they talked about this, and they called the union authorization card like the holy grail for union organizers, and that's the name of the folder that this video is in, Adam. But and they will really take advantage of if you're being a kind of a lazy organizer and you don't tell people that this is to say that you're a union, you're a member of the union, you want to be authorized for as a union, and if you tell them that this is just for an election, the boss is really going to take advantage of that. So let's go ahead and play that, Adam.
The holy grail to an organizer is a signed union authorization card. It basically is a legal document that says the employee is giving the union the right to speak for them in terms of wages, benefits, and working conditions. It's like giving the union power of attorney and lets them make binding agreements that employees must live by. If at least 30% of the employees sign those cards, the union can take them to the NLRB and petition for an election. However, most unions will wait until they have at least 50% signed up, and usually closer to 60 to 70%, because they know that many of those people will shift sides during the ongoing campaign. It also makes the union appear to be much stronger than it really might be, and makes employees think they better get on board if they don't want to be left out. There are also some instances where unions can get in a company using authorization cards.
All right, that's enough there.
This sometimes happens in companies that may already.
Yeah, and he was going to talk about card check, which is what you which is what you were talking about, Connor, which is saying, using the card as a we intend to be a union, and so the management is really they're really going to push that if you're not upfront with them, and you're telling them that that's just going to be for the election, because it's real, it's not just for the election.
Yeah. And I think that's, the thing is, and just listening to a very small snippet of that, they actually know how this works.
Right.
Sophisticated union busters know exactly how this kind of campaign works. They know our playbook as well as we know their playbook. Mm-hmm. And so, I think that one of the things that is really important to keep in mind is, like you said, if you take shortcuts, they will pounce on those shortcuts, and it will lead to bad outcomes. And I just was thinking, the whole presentation of, this is a binding, legal agreement, yada, yada, yada. It's just it's trying to give people the sense of, oh my God, what did I sign? Right. Every single time that you read through a terms of service or something and oh geez, did I just sign away my DNA or something? Right. It's trying to create this perception that, oh my God, I don't know what I actually signed, and to create uncertainty about that. And one of the things that I often hear is kind of a next step is that union avoidance attorneys or union busters will often tell workers, hey, you can get your authorization card back. They'll try to say that you can revoke it. And so that's kind of the next step of that playbook, is getting people to actually pull their cards. Right. So, but like you said, if you educate people about what the card means up front, that's part of the inoculation as well. Mm-hmm. Because then people are okay, yeah, it's, I know exactly what this is, what it does, and I'm totally comfortable with the fact that I signed it.
Right. Yeah. Good education, real good upfront education can also function as inoculation. If you want to see what we're up to throughout the week and get our snide quips about the news of the day, then you should follow us on social media. We are on Facebook at facebook.com/The Valley Labor Report. We are on Twitter at Labor Reporters. I'm on Twitter at JacobM_AL. And if you missed part of the show and want to watch it later, you can go to YouTube at The Valley Labor Report. We also upload the program on more than 11 different podcasting apps, so you can find us on your listening platform of choice at thevalleylaborreport.transistor.fm/subscribe. We have a website where you can buy our hats and stickers. Somebody accidentally bought too many, so we thought we were out, but we've got 2 more that were returned. So if you still want a hat, we've got 2 more left. That is thevalleylaborreport.org. And the best way that you can support the show is by throwing us a couple dollars a month on patreon.com/thevalleylaborreport.